Today is a very emotional day for the men and women of the Baton Rouge Police Department and all those in our law enforcement community.
Good morning, South Louisiana. We are interrupting that normal broadcasting today for something kind of tough. The community beginning to say their goodbyes to two officers who died in the line of duty. Of course, we've been talking a lot about this. We're talking about Sergeant Poirrier and Cpl Scotty Canezaro. Liz, a live look right now at where this all begins this morning.
We take you out live now to the West Baton Rouge Coroner's Office, where you can see a number of our law enforcement officers here, members of, you can see West Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. You see the emblem there on their chest and sleeves, members of the Baton Rouge Police Department, as we prepare to begin for the processional route for Sergeant David Poirrier and Corporal Scott Canezaro.
So what's going to happen as we kind of look at this, and we're just going to kind of let you take this in as well. The procession is going to begin here, and it's going to travel into Baton Rouge, pass by BRPD headquarters, and from there kind of go their separate ways to different funeral homes. But times, Liz, do you think these officers put that hand to their head and salute? And how many times do you hope they never have to do it in a situation like this?
That answer is one time too many.
It's heartbreaking to see, and you gotta know these are community servants who spend more time with their brothers and sisters in uniform, who wear the badge probably than they do their blood family. These are family members that they are saying goodbye to, and it's beyond difficult, and we've done it far too many times here in South Louisiana.
And to emphasize this, it's not just one law enforcement officer that we are saying goodbye to, thank you to. It's two today, together.
Right.
And you can see here this processional route starting again, if you were just joining us, at the West Baton Rouge Coroner's Office, where this kind of all unfolded Sunday morning.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It all started there in West Baton Rouge Parish. So again, as you kind of look at this, what's going to happen is an honor guard, essentially, here right now, as these two peace officers are brought to their individual hearses to be taken on a processional that we're going to walk you through and talk you through here in a moment.
WAFB has team members all along the processional route to kind of give you some live coverage here. If you're watching at home and cannot be along that route, we want to show you this from home so you can honor in your own way Sergeant David Poirrier and Corporal Scotty Canezaro.
It's actually Sergeant Poirrier right there being put into the back of the, so you know, as you continue to watch this, Sergeant Poirrier will be traveling in the white hearse. Corporal Canezaro is going to be traveling in the black hearse.
This is understandably an emotional day, not only for the colleagues, but not obviously for the family members of both of these pilot officers, helicopter pilots, also trained tactical flight officers who have been working hard, working with the Air Support Unit with the Baton Rouge Air Patrol Division.
This is clearly something they love to do. When you talk about Poirrier, he was obviously with BRPD for 17 years, Canezaro 16 years. They loved to be community servants. They loved flight. You know, we have a pilot working with us as well, Johnny Asian. He says there's nothing like getting in the air. And these guys were able to get in the air, do something they love, and serve the community they love, and to have them taken the way they were. What you're seeing now is just into East Baton Rouge. So West Baton Rouge on the other side of that bridge, that's the old bridge right there, Liz, and of course, this is part of the route they're going to take.
And Matt, we want to walk people through here the route they're going to take. So they're going from the West Baton Rouge Coroner's Office and then making their way, obviously, over the old bridge. You can see here, this is one of the traffic cameras at Airline Highway and Scenic, where we have Baton Rouge Fire Department joining forces with the Zachary Fire Department to display the beautiful big flag as both hearses make their way to do that salute past the police headquarters on Airline.
So once they get up on the bridge and they get over the parish line, they cross the big river there. It is a fairly simple route. There's no turns. It's just a procession all the way down Airline Highway, right to the BRPD headquarters. Of course, the headquarters now right there at the corner of Airline and Goodwood. And there is that Louisiana Officers Memorial there. You remember the one that used to be downtown?
Yeah.
Moved out, and it's got all the names, and it's, you know, it's been a little minute for BRPD. But it hasn't been a minute long enough. It's 2020 when you talk about Lieutenant Dale Hutto killed in the line of fire, and before that it's Michael Toddy motorcycle crash in 2019, and then you keep going back and you get to that police ambush in 16, and it's too many lives lost serving the community. And look at what happens every time something like that happens. It's just the brothers and sisters who come out to honor, and it's the community they serve who comes out to honor. This,
Matt, I think is quite evident. It's brotherly love. Even if you were not physically close with these officers or sergeants, or you didn't work in the same department in them, I think there is that mutual respect where you understand and appreciate the work that they do. You understand this is such a powerful moment.
It really is. So we're going to let you kind of take this in and do your own thing as you start to say your goodbyes.
You see how many people are just lined up. The silence speaks volumes here. We are now, the processional will end up passing by.
So yeah, that's where it starts. This is where it's going to continue to, and obviously you have the officers outside right now ready to go to pay their respects to two of their own. You see the flag there, obviously at half staff. They've been there for a number of days, and they're like that flag staffs all over the city. It's not just government complexes, certainly not just BRPD. You know, picking up one of my kids in carpool, and there it is, you know, half staff, and it's just a measure. Sometimes it's the only thing that folks can do to pay their own tribute. I got flags in yards all over my neighborhood, and they lower those, you know, and it's just a symbol, something that we feel we can do to say thank you.
It's the respect and the reverence, not only again for these officers and their colleagues here, but the families who are also processing this loss at this time. So as we await for the hearse of Sergeant Poirrier and Corporal Canezaro wait to arrive and pass by the police memorial there, you see Chief Murphy Paul and Mayor President Sharon Westenbroom also there joining fellow officers in front of the police memorial there at the headquarters of Baton Rouge Police.
And we can tell you now that both of these peace officers are going to be again heading off to different directions to those funeral homes, and we just don't know yet, nothing confirmed yet on official funeral arrangements. I know everybody wants to know what's next. That would clearly be next, and we'll be working obviously to find that out for you and passing it along. It takes a lot. This is not something that is done overnight or even just a couple of days. There's a lot that goes into these funeral arrangements.
And this is on top of while working day-to-day police
Correct.
duties to keep our community safe day in and day out. So they are doing this while mourning two of their own now. As we watch here the processional route, a live coverage here. And Matt, you can see there are honor guards specifically set to honor fallen police officers and law enforcement.
And so, look, if you're within earshot of this, and you're kind of close to BRPD headquarters anyway, and that's Broadmoor right there, the old heart of Baton Rouge, and you have the time, come on out. They're encouraging anybody to come on out, and so you understand they're not going to stop here, right? It is, but how can you not pass here, this building that houses the Baton Rouge Police Department, that was the home away for home for these two who are now gone. It's going to kind of pass by here slowly, kind of a wait, a little slow honor roll, so that everybody here can pay their respects as they pass by one more time this old building they used to work in.
And we do kind of want to outline what's going to happen after they roll through and pass by. So we are told that Sergeant Poirrier, he will be taken to Seal Funeral Home on Range Avenue in Denham Springs. And then Corporal Scotty Canezaro will actually be escorted to Raven Horse Funeral Home in Baton Rouge, actually right across from Channel 9 here on Government Street. So that's where you'll see them part ways after they make their way past the police headquarters there on Airline.
Yeah, we talk about, okay, so why Denham Springs, right? Well, those in the know exactly why. The sergeant didn't start his career with BRPD, even though he served 17 years with that particular badge. He worked for the Denham Springs Police Department, Officer of the Year.
Yeah.
Right, at one point?
From 1999 to 2006, he's with Denham Springs PD. The current chief actually saying that he kind of joined the force at the same time, speaking so highly of him.
And so that's just, imagine how many lives you touch over the course of that amount of time. Again, as we give you a look, just on the East Baton Rouge side of the bridge where this processional is going to pass through. Imagine the number of lives touched over the course of that kind of community service. It's incredible.
I think you honed in on a really important word, Matt, community. Yeah. So something that we want to touch on here is Corporal Canezaro, obviously a part of the Air Patrol Division, but he was actually bragged on for being so proud of showing to kids and communities and schools what the Air Patrol Division does. And that's a really cool thing to be proud of, to be able to say, hey kids, this is what we do. We're up in the sky trying to help this mission, and that's exactly what they were doing before they passed.
Can you imagine being like a school? And it's not the touch-a-truck events are so awesome. No, this is touch-a-helicopter. Yeah. A what? And to see that thing come in and just be, this is what we get to do. This is how we serve you. That's magical for a kid. Look, man, I'm almost 50, and that kind of that stuff is magical. That kind of profession, that kind of ability, that kind of know-how to get up there and get after it and serve your community, which is exactly what they were doing. But yeah, we were talking about earlier, service of community. You got to love it. And then to be able to do something you love while doing that, flying, just, man, magic.
To be able to break that down for children to get excited about too, because you imagine you go to these events where you see the SWAT units and everything, and it is exciting, but it can also be pretty overwhelming.
It really can be. And this spot right here can be overwhelming as well. Not a lot of words spoken. Right there, as they await, and it's going to be a minute. It's going to be a minute for that procession before they get here. But to have them lined up again is heartbreaking for the community.
And you have to imagine, Matt, as you look at these officials here, Chief Murphy Paul, his men, his women here lined up behind him, this department, you can't help but feel for them. You get a tear in your eye and your heart just breaks, because this again is something that they have to process, a loss, 2 losses in their department. And again, this is on top of their day-to-day duties.
Yeah, and it's just, we talked about you mentioned some of the officers who've lost their lives in the line of duty. We just mentioned a few of those, and you get taken right back to that. When something like this happens again, a live look for you here, West Baton Rouge side of the river, before the procession gets to the bridge. They talk about doing this again, and you immediately are taken back to every single one of these that you've done, every single one of these that you've put that black stripe across the badge for. Every single one of the times you've driven underneath that flag that you're seeing right there, draped by Baton Rouge's bravest, to honor Baton Rouge's finest, right?
Wow.
Every time you do that, you remember every family member you've lost. And it's just, if you ever go over to that memorial at BRPD headquarters, and if you haven't, take a minute, go over there, read those names, and understand the service, understand the loss, understand the commitment, and understand that every time this happens, it's personal, it's family, and all that is brought right back up again.
It's sacrifice.
It is.
Ultimately,
It
not
really is.
only for the officers, but their families. They know when they send their spouse off, that when they send their son off, their daughter off, they
Yeah.
know exactly what their child, their spouse are walking into. And you can only imagine what the families of Sergeant Poirrier and Corporal Canezaro, they're just processing here, because not only are you dealing with the grief of this loss, you're also planning funerals, and it can be overwhelming to not really know. But we've actually been told, Matt, that the families are being taken care of by some really special people who are cooking for them, their
Right.
colleagues, to make
Right.
sure that they are fed. So that's one last thing that they have to think about during this time. And you can see on your screen, as we pivot to this live picture here from the traffic camera, the hearse there of Corporal Canezaro just making that pass before getting onto that old bridge there.
And again, this is going to be a fairly straight shot for them, not necessarily a short drive, but there's this is it. This is going to be them along Airline Highway all the way down until they pass by BRPD headquarters, and then shortly after that they'll begin to split off. But there you see it. It's hard to miss. Everything's shut down on the bridge, except for this. We'll let you kind of take this in right now. It's going to be a minute, obviously. You've got the bulk of that procession behind kind of those out in front, but you're clearly seeing how this is going to be playing out. Officers on patrol, officers on motorcycle typically always lead something like this, and they've got all those intersections kind of blocked off. But that first kind of motorcade, what you're seeing right there, literally the motormen coming through, and then shortly behind them you'll begin to see obviously those hearses and the other officers around them. But it's such a powerful moment. If you've ever stood on the side of the road and seen this happen, it's something you never forget, and it's something you hope you never have to do again.
Looking at this image, Matt, you see the motormen, and if you saw the back of their jackets, we had Baton Rouge Police motormen, we had Louisiana State Police, we had the Sheriff's Office, we had a number of different agencies lining up here, and you can see now the hearse of Sergeant Poirrier starting to make its way through there, coming off the old bridge, old Mississippi River Bridge, making its way under the arch where that flag is poignantly just raised. As those firefighters, officers all salute as he makes his way through.
Canezaro right behind him.
Mm-hmm. Matt, this is an image that you never forget.
No, it's not. And you know, it's something that you just kind of take in your own way.
Matt, we were talking about children earlier and how Corporal Canezaro worked to, you know, display what they do, show off what they do. I just imagine what this looks like to a child, almost like a parade of sorts.
And that's the thing. And you know, how do you talk about this with a child? How do you make them understand what this is? Because you're right. I mean, kid, look at all the flashing lights, and we got flags everywhere, and what's all the salutes, and yeah, it's absolutely a parade. It is a parade celebration of life gone way too soon. And not just life gone too soon, but of a public servant who lived to serve community. That's why this is so important to be a part of, so important to watch and see, and to just kind of understand the impact.
We take you live back out now to the Baton Rouge Police Headquarters, where the processional is actually heading to now, as they've now made their way into East Baton Rouge Parish, making their way down Airline Highway to the police memorial there, where you can see, as we start to pan out here, you see the flags there in front of Baton Rouge Police Headquarters at half-staff. As Matt mentioned, they've been since Sunday.
Yeah. For those of you who've taken that drive down Airline, maybe you've started at the old bridge and just kind of made your way down all the way to, eventually the interstate. You know, that can take you a minute on a normal day. I got a lot of lights right there going north and south on Airline as you kind of run through North Baton Rouge and come into the Old Heart near Broadmoor. That's not something they're going to obviously have to worry about with this right now. All those intersections are going to be blocked off as they make some of their final trips, Poirrier and Cpl.
I believe we also have pictures now of both of these licensed helicopter pilots, trained technical flight officers who fly over the skies of Baton Rouge, patrolling the skies on a nightly basis. And when you talk about a specific set of skills and training.
Canezaro right there, he's talking to, literally talking to those kids, exactly what you're talking about. You can almost see it in his face. And we see the smiles, right, on like their official police department shots. You see the smiles, and you say, oh, they're with the smile, everybody smiles. Yeah, okay, maybe. But sometimes you see a smile that looks just more real than I'm forcing it because there's a camera here. And you can just see they loved what they did. They loved where they did it. They loved how they were able to do it. Getting up in the air and serving.
And as we take a live look from another traffic camera here, this is, I believe, Airline Highway at Plank Road, where you can see, Matt, on that overpass, you see a number of fire units, fire department units, and it looks like a fire truck lined up as they pass under. Another respectful way to say thank you and I'm sorry.
Guaranteed, right on that, there are firefighters salute right to the hat, right to the forehead. Airline in Florida. Obviously, that's going to be a pretty big spot. What you have is actually looking down towards, this is Airline Florida right here, looking down towards BRPD headquarters right over here off the right. This is going to be essentially where this combined procession splits off a little bit. But they will both be together, everybody together, right through this part. And you can see, obviously, Liz, you've got more flags waiting to be driven under for these two.
I know when you see this, you're thinking, oh, what do you hear? What do you hear when this is all going by? Of course you hear the sounds of traffic, but aside from that, Matt, I can guarantee it is silence as everybody out there takes this all in. As you are watching at home with us, it's silence, reverence.
It is. It is. And again, it is, everybody's going to kind of process this a little bit differently. Everybody wants to experience this a little bit differently. And if you're watching from home, you certainly have that capability to do what is comfortable for you if you've managed to make it out there along the procession. That's exactly obviously what you want to be a part of, and it's what you want to do. It's how you want to pay your respects. But obviously, you got the bucket trucks out there right now doing their part as well, helping to raise the flag.
You said something really poignant, coming together. That's where you see all these different law enforcement agencies, fire departments from multiple parishes, from multiple cities coming together. And it's, you see this, coming together for children, coming together for community. And when you talk about that level of community service and that dedication to service, I mean, this is clearly what, if you weren't spending time with your family and patrolling the skies, you spent your time in the community, serving the community in this way, explaining, hey, this is what we do, and I love my job.
Liz, you go out. Liz, you go. You speak to classes, right? We all get that opportunity. We all love when we have that opportunity. It's just to see those young faces smiling back at you as you recount some of your stories. What do you think the stories are that he's telling them?
Man.
What do you think he's telling them about his love of this town, this city, South Louisiana? What do you think he's passing on to those young minds, maybe impacting them in a way that, who knows, maybe soon, maybe someday, they're putting on a uniform, they're putting on a badge, maybe they're jumping in a helicopter?
I have no doubt he's left that kind of impact on these students. Let's also take a look now, airline at Greenwell Street, where you can see Matt coming from the middle of your screen, kind of like it's coming from the sky.
Yeah. So for those who know this part of the world, obviously up in North Baton Rouge, Greenwell Street would be just south of where the old EKL used to be. Okay, long hospital, long gone now, but certainly still a landmark in people's minds and memories. And minds and memories are what we're focused on right now with these two. As you see, obviously that's Sergeant Poirrier's casket, or hearse driving by, and Scotty Canezaro, the black one there as well.
It is a powerful image to see two motormen flanking each of the hearse. And you have to imagine that when you're driving like this, it's a concentrated effort, but also they're processing this all at the same time. But could you imagine how they feel seeing fire departments, different agencies, different sisters and brothers in blue just lined up here?
Well, I think you talked about it earlier, Liz, as well, as we continue to watch this procession. The job doesn't end for those who remain to serve. They're still charged every single day with the same, but having to deal with this as well. So yeah, having to process all of that, it's difficult to imagine.
And that processional route making their way now to Baton Rouge Police Headquarters, where you can see Chief Murphy Paul, Sharon Westneroom, the Mayor-President of East Baton Rouge, awaiting the arrival of the two.
Liz, it's such an interesting juxtaposition. I think for a lot of folks in Baton Rouge, they remember this old building as a place to celebrate new life. The old women's hospital, right? Former women's hospital. And now you see that memorial out there, and it's a celebration and it's an honor of lives lost, lives taken more often than not. And soon there's going to be a couple more names on there, and soon those two are going to be driving by that old station for the last time.
Taking a look here at Airline as that processional starts making its way, inching closer to Baton Rouge Police Headquarters, and what you just described, Matt, I think that's beautiful and powerful imagery just to think about that. When you think about how many people were born at that women's hospital.
Right, correct. All three of my children.
Yeah.
And so many more, obviously. And now is a place where community service is being done again, right, in a whole nother way. But it is also a place where we will help memorialize these two public servants' lives lost.
And as we watch this processional route here, you think about the impact of what's next. This is not just a day where we look at this processional and say, okay, well, you know, we remember them, but how do you keep their memory alive?
Right.
Well, it's by reading the names on that memorial, keeping their memory alive by recognizing their service and their impact in our community. And I think we focused on this before, but Sergeant Poirrier, the story, the many situations where he's worked to save a baby in one instance.
Oh, I know, right.
I mean, these stories are just incredible, and I can imagine that these are just by the dozen. How many saves that you don't hear about?
How many more of those stories are going to come out? How many more of those conversations are going to be taking place? How many of those memories are going to be recounted and relived in the best of ways? Sad that no more memories will be made, happy that they were made in the first place. It is, and you hope that this isn't the last memory, right? That this is the final memory. Mm-hmm. And you know how it's not going to be? You know how it's not going to be? You saw where they were, right? Out talking with kids.
Yes.
Their memory, their impact will live on, and you get to see that every single day. So it is, that's how it continues.
Yes.
Right? That's how we continue to celebrate them, because they will be celebrated by those they had the impact on.
And as we are here together today for this very reason, to honor their legacy, to honor their service, if you have a specific memory with them, maybe your child, maybe one of them spoke to your child in a class, or maybe you went out to one of those events where they have all of the law enforcement come out to show off these vehicles, please share your story, not only with the police department, with the law enforcement agent. If you've had a positive encounter, please share that with them and say thank you, because we can never say thank you enough for your sacrifice, for your service, for the dedication that you have, not only to your department, but to our community.
It's easy to say thanks. You know, it's easy to say thank you. It shouldn't be difficult.
It shouldn't.
It's easy to say thank you. And more often than not, you'll be able to find one of our many officers or deputies as well, working extra duty somewhere, you know, as you kind of maybe do your shopping. This is airline in Greenwell Springs, and so we're getting closer and closer. But you know, as you have those moments of opportunity, take that moment, you know? You always talk about service members saying thanks. Well, these are service members, you know, just service at a more local level. There's always an opportunity to say thank you.
Again, if you're just joining us here, you are watching the processional route as Sergeant David Poirrier, a 17-year veteran with the Baton Rouge Police Department, and Corporal Scotty Canezaro, a 16-year veteran with the Baton Rouge Police Department, make their way closer to the police memorial there at the Baton Rouge Police Headquarters on Airline Highway. And Matt, we are not just watching Baton Rouge Police Department escort them, we are talking a multitude of agencies joining them here as you just watched two of those hearses pass by. It is something to take in.
It's not something that Baton Rouge Police Department has to deal with on their own. It never is. Every law enforcement community from around the state, certainly from around South Louisiana, is going to steady up their shoulders and allow BRPD to lean on them in any way they need. And that's how it is. That's how this is, a community of service serving the community. And it really is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. And so when you lose two of your brothers like this, it doesn't matter the uniform you're wearing, it matters that you're wearing a uniform. And so you're gonna see the names, all these different names on all these cars and SUVs and all these fire trucks and all these bucket trucks from electrical companies. You know, it's just, of course they want to be out here. Of course they want to be a part of this.
Where else would you be on a day like today where you have the opportunity to line the route? And that's what Baton Rouge Police Department, they were asking people to line up wherever they could. And you can see here as we take another look from one of our traffic cameras from the Department of Transportation and Development, you'll see those lights coming through. You cannot miss them.
And this is, like we've told you before, this is that shot right there at Florida, right there, Airline in Florida, and you're looking down towards Goodwood, and then right there on the right, that's the former Women's Hospital, the current BRPD headquarters, and it's poetic in many ways when we talk about, you know, what that building used to be, but also how this particular part of Baton Rouge is described. The Broadmoor area, the old heart of Baton Rouge, and to have these two go, you know, right through again, the old heart of Baton Rouge, and to have Baton Rouge begin to say their goodbyes. special moments.
That's a beautiful way to put it. When you talk about lining up that way, lining up the route.
Yeah. And these, you know what? As you look at this, you know they'd stand there for hours. Doesn't matter. They'd stand there for days. They'd stand there for days. And in fact, they've had kind of a honor guard over at West Baton Rouge, the coroner's office, right? From the moment those two arrived there till the moment they just left, there's been somebody standing there, making sure they were watched over.
How powerful is that to know that somebody is watching over them, literally stationed outside,
Not going anywhere.
an honor watch of sorts?
That's exactly what it is.
To say, you know, I think in the law enforcement world, you often hear, "I've got your six," quite literally. You have somebody standing outside keeping watch, and as you mentioned, Matt, they would stand here for hours, honoring their brethren in this way.
When we have to deal with something like this, you know, in the news business, we want to talk to family, obviously, and make sure they're doing okay. But the man you just saw right there, obviously, Chief Marshal Paul, that's also one of the first voices we want to hear. It's a lot on those shoulders, not just his, but just any chief who would be in that position. And you know, you wonder what's going through his head right now, doing this again, as the procession now gets very, very close to where they're standing.
I can only imagine what some of those thoughts would be on a day like today, where you've had now a couple of days. Obviously, there will be days in the future where we focus on the investigation and stories to come and the funerals. And again, we do want to remind you here that this is just the processional route. The funerals, the arrangements have not been made just yet. We just know that today that Sergeant Poirrier will be taken to Seal Funeral Home there in Denham Springs on Range Avenue. Corporal Canezaro, this is at the point where they will split. You're seeing a photo of Corporal Canezaro now. He will be escorted to Raven Horse Funeral Home in Baton Rouge, right across from us actually here.
Well, you know the timing on this photo, huh?
Yeah.
I tell you, it just, yeah. I mean, you can see it, man. They just look at the smile.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing forced here, man. I'm doing what I love, and I get to do it the way I love to do it. It's just, oh my gosh.
And I'm proud of what I do.
You know.
I'm proud to serve the community in this way. Actually, Sergeant David Poirrier, we've learned, is actually just recently promoted to sergeant this month.
That's right. Just that recently, continuing to move up and serve the community, and continuing to step out of his door, both of them, every single day. So here we go. Again, that is BRPD headquarters just off the right here, and the bulk of the procession is about ready to pass by. My goodness.
We're also getting a live look from Baton Rouge Police on the ground as we shoot our lens up to the sky. Air Support Unit, how fitting of a tribute on this day to honor Sergeant Poirrier and Corporal Canezaro, the very division that they were a part of for many years.
How could there not be a helicopter? Absolutely. We'll let you watch this.
Scotty, you can imagine from here they are getting the directives as they start diverging their paths.
Two guys, you know, spent a lot of time together, serving, a lot of time together in the air, and one kind of final ride together, if you will, and then now, yeah, now they separate a bit here, but you know they're never truly going to be separated. These two are forever linked in service. Forever linked with this moment, and so it's everybody gets to celebrate them now, how they'd like to. But it's a lot to take in, and it's a lot for these officers and everybody involved to go through this kind of moment, knowing there are still some big moments to come with these funerals. It's just the beginning.
When you think about funerals, you hear so often in loving memory, but when you talk about this police memorial, when you talk so often about police funerals and getting to honor them in this way, I think, Matt, a fitting way to put it is in living memory. You want to keep their memory alive. You want to keep their service and their acts of serving the community alive, and that's by telling their stories, telling the heroic stories of their acts of service to the community.
And you know they're all going to begin to tell those stories again. The hugs, the handshakes, the conversations. All right, folks, we're going to get ready to leave you here and get you back to regular programming. We're going to see you again, of course, Liz Willett for 9 News at noon, with the very latest on this, as well as we just kind of begin our goodbyes for two of Baton Rouge's finest.
We thank you for joining our special coverage here, the processional here for Sergeant David Poirrier and Corporal Scotty Canezaro.